Okay, so hi everyone, welcome. We're excited to have you with us for our second virtual Parents and Families Welcome Day. Typically, we are meeting with you during move-in week, and we get a big room in the Williams Village Center. We provide you with breakfast. We do a lot of socializing, but due to how move-in is happening next week and that our students are staggered over several days, and also just the ongoing concerns with COVID, we wanted to give you some information before all of you leave and start traveling to see you. And move-in's just a really busy week, so wanted to give you some information before you get here. And then we're hosting some great little in-person coffee hours next week, so hopefully you saw the RSVP for that. You don't have to RSVP, it just helps us prepare a little bit, but we will be here in Williams Village North, providing like coffee and refreshments, just so we can have an opportunity to meet you. So please stop by and meet us when you are here, when you're moving in or afterwards. So that would be just a great opportunity for us to see you in person. All right, so we're going to jump into just some deeper insight into our program and what your students will be experiencing this first academic year. So just some quick introductions. Some of you may know us already. My name is Vanessa Napier, and I oversee programs for students here at CU that are trying to gain admission into the business school. So the biggest program is the pre-business program, but there are other paths to get into Leeds as well. My physical office, which I'm in right now, is here right in Williams Village North, where the majority of our students live. This year, it's really almost the majority of the dorm as well. We are made up of about 350 pre-business students out of 500 beds. The other 150 are going to be business students and other majors, exploratory studies from campus. So it's a great mix of students, with the majority being our pre-business students. So I'll let Heather introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. So some of you already know me or have met me via Zoom. I'm the academic advisor for pre-business students. So I will work with your students throughout the first year here at CU and help them make sure that they're on track for admission. I did go to Leeds many years ago and graduated from our business school, so I'm a little bit familiar with the student side of things. And I also manage and oversee our peer advisors. So they are current students who help us out in our office, can answer advising questions, and also, of course, have the excellent perspective of being current students. So they help me a lot in all that I do. And I'll be talking a lot about advising today and, of course, with your students over the course of the next year. I'll let Stephen take it over.
Hey, everyone. My name is Stephen Heyman. I'm the program manager for pre-business. My principal role is developing and hosting community and professional events. So we'll dive into some details a little bit more, what that means, but just a brief overview. This involves skill building workshops like professional communications, organization, resume building, LinkedIn, neuro hacking, which is a course on device usage that I like to give. I also host talks with career professionals, entrepreneurs, Leeds alumni. We really just create a communication network for your students to start to build in their first year. So, and we cover all areas of emphasis or expose them to all areas of emphasis, which is management and entrepreneurship, marketing, finance, accounting, and real estate. And like I said, we'll dive into a little bit more detail in a few minutes as to what that entails. So I'll hand it back over to you, Vanessa.
Okay, so just some Zoom etiquette here. We always go over this with your students when we're in Zoom meetings too. But I've got you on mute, so stay muted in this main Zoom room. We won't do any breakouts, so you'll be muted the majority of the time. If you do want to ask a question out loud, just raise your hand by selecting in the reactions button, the raise your hand tool. But really, it's easiest if you ask all of your questions to everyone in the chat, like I mentioned earlier. So instead of like direct messaging one of us, please ask to everyone so that we can be sure to get your questions answered. And ask as we go, and we'll try to answer as we go as well. And then we'll reserve some time at the end of the presentation to answer some of your questions also. A lot of you don't have your cameras on. We really can't see much of you anyway, but we do love if you have your cameras on. So when I do end the presentation, we can get some like FaceTime with you. But again, we'll hopefully do that as well next week. So here's just reiteration questions, put them in the chat. And if it's a more private or, you just don't really feel comfortable asking them to everyone, you can always email us at prebusiness@colorado.edu. We all check that email account, including our peer advisors. So it's, really great resource for you. It's being answered, within 1 to 2 business days regularly all throughout the year. So please email us there if you want some more direct one-on-one contact with us. All right, so just some kind of hot topics that we get a lot of questions about. The first one, there were a lot of concerns around housing and dining last year with COVID. This year, we are resuming operations as normal. And one great benefit next week is that you're going to be able to eat for free in our dining halls with your student Monday through Thursday. You do have to be with your student, so be sure to have them tagging along with you. But the one in Williams Village and all of them are just excellent. Since we're out in Williams Village, eat in the Williams Village Center a lot as staff, and we love it. It's just so nice and new, and there's a greenhouse right there. So it's just a unique opportunity for you to kind of gain the student perspective with our dining situation. So really encourage you to take advantage of that next week with your student. That's a new thing that they're providing this year. So we're excited to be able to host that for you. So health and safety, and there's so much that, I could talk about here, but really the most important thing is that there are a lot of resources for your students, from physical to mental health. So please reach out to us if you're having any difficulty navigating these throughout the semester. 99% of the time, we will have an answer for you. We most likely maybe won't be the best person to answer the questions, but we certainly know who to get you to. So don't wait until it's too late. Like if your student's really struggling, reach out to us right away and let us help you navigate those resources that CU has to offer. So there's a student orientation, and there's 2 parts to it. So there is an online portion that your students were just notified about 30 minutes ago, and it's live on their Pathway to Leeds course. Hopefully you've heard that before, Pathway to Leeds. And I'm going to show you what I mean when I say that. But there is just this kind of short virtual kind of quiz-like video that they need to watch and complete for orientation, and it's due in 1 week. So it's due Wednesday of next week by midnight. It's really just an opportunity for us to give them some information, just like we are you, before they get here. So it's very important. It is required. So we've got to make sure that they get that done by next Wednesday, as it houses some really critical information. So be sure to maybe just prod them that they should be doing that, and they'll be getting more and more emails about it. And your student really needs to use their CU Boulder email now. We're not emailing their personal email. We are emailing their CU Boulder email. So that's a really important thing for them to be checking. So when I say Pathway to Leeds, this is what I mean. We have a platform called Canvas, and it is where the majority of all of their class information is held. We provide this class-like structure to really just some resources. There aren't going to be really assignments in here. It's just a resource for them to find essential advising information. Here's where that orientation is living that they'll click on and complete. It really should only take 15 to 30 minutes max. So it's easy. It's not there to challenge them. It's just there to help them. And then Heather and Stephen have built some really amazing video tutorials for registration purposes. So just some great information in here for them to access, something that we use all year. So please, encourage your student to use Pathway to Leeds. If they're like, well, I didn't know about something, or I'm not sure how to contact Heather, or any kind of excuses like that, this is really, their number one resource for all things pre-business, as well as us, right? We're here in their dorm, so they can't always escape us. So it's just important that they navigate, reach out, and access us as they need it. So that's Pathway to Leeds. Remember, ask any questions in the chat as you go. So I see, do they know how to access this? They were sent an email saying they've been invited to Pathway to Leeds. We continue to prompt them if they have not added it. So they should know that it exists. Anytime Heather comes into contact with them, she's making sure that they're accessing it. Heather, did you come off mute? You want to say something?
I did. All I was going to add is that it's hosted in Canvas, which is the same online platform that they'll have all of their fall classes. So even if a class is in person, it's going to have, an online website, so to speak. And that is through the same exact software. So they'll be in there every day once the semester starts too. So it'll become hard to miss for sure.
Great. Yeah. And so then there were just some questions about like what they need for their peripherals, like computer. Most of our students are on Mac and they're using Microsoft Office. The LibreOffice, I would not navigate away from actual Microsoft Office. Though they say they're compatible, things can go wrong. And even, especially in their Excel-based learning class, Math 11-12, that they'll either take fall and spring, it's pretty critical that they're using the right technology. So there are discounts through the CE Boulder bookstore for that. So just be sure that they do have the Microsoft Office suite on their Macs or PCs, depending on what they're using. Either are great though. Like I said, most students seem to use Macs, but I've seen more and more PCs coming through as well. Okay, so that's Pathway to Leeds. Great question. And then just some, a brief kind of discussion about online learning. So I know there can be a lot of concerns about online learning, and some classes are online this semester, like your students' econ lecture. But online instruction, especially at the collegiate level, isn't new. It didn't just come about because of COVID. We've been doing this for many, many years. We found that a lot of our classes, or not a lot, but some of our classes are better in the online format, like the econ lecture. To give you some comparison, econ lectures are usually 400 to 500 lecture halls. So we find that online learning can be really engaging with those types of classes. That being said, most of your students' classes on their schedules should be in person. And for the econ specifically, that the majority of your students are taking, there's going to be an in-person component called a recitation. And that's 1 day a week. And it's so, so critical that they go. So I think some students think of it as like a study hall, but it really is more than that. It's important that they go, they engage with their peers, and they get the information that they need in a really rigorous course. So keep that in mind. We always say the most important thing your students do this year is go to class. And sometimes this can be one of the hardest things they do too. So that's something we'll be talking to them a lot about in student orientation, both online and in person. Okay, so what is the pre-business program? Maybe some of you have watched our video, and I've talked a little bit about it on our website, but this program was really born from a need. Our college has become increasingly competitive over the past decade, and we've had to turn away talented students due to space. So as we managed enrollment, we wanted to provide a structured way to capture students that did not end up directly admitting into Leeds, but show academic and professional promise. So this class of 2025, is our 7th year of pre-business students. And it's Heather and I's 6th year with the program and Stephen's 3rd year with the program. So we're all pretty seasoned here with our students, and we have a really good feel for how these things work and how they move throughout their first year. So that being said, you can kind of see our pre-business program structure here. I'm going to turn it over to Stephen, and he's going to talk a little bit more about our programming.
Thank you, Vanessa. So hi, everybody. Once again, this is Stephen. And a lot of what I said earlier, I'm just going to bring back up really quick. So like I said, my major role is hosting, developing community and professional events. So beyond that, beyond hosting career professionals, entrepreneurs, we already have a really nice lineup of professional events scheduled for our students in combination with Leeds programming on main campus. So they'll get to intermingle with some of the other Leeds business students on main. But in terms of skill building stuff that I like to deploy the first year for these freshmen are time management, networking, organization, career resources, personal financial planning. We like to just kind of give the basics, and you'd be surprised at the improvement in terms of what the students are able to accomplish with just a heightened sense of communication ability with professors across campus. So that's something that we touch on really early, and we're noticing it's making big improvements and strides for our students. So we also focus a lot on networking. with that sense of community, as previously mentioned by Heather and Vanessa, we're running Pathway to Leeds in Canvas in the same exact platform that your students taking all their other classes, except this isn't quite a course. It's just their central location to find everything that they need. Academic advising, all the program and event information that I will deploy will be coming through Pathway to Leeds. And I just end with this: if your student ever expresses they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, ask them. The first question you should ask them is, have you been checking Pathway to Leeds? Because we are step by step with them, walking through this course, and this is the way that they can track their progress for admission their sophomore year. So I can't emphasize that enough, and make sure that they're checking their CU emails, not their personal emails anymore. That's where all the correspondence is going to start to be coming from. So with that, in terms of community event programming, it's incredibly important to our students' resilience and academic success. And one of the most effective ways we see relationships form is through that our one credit course that Heather, Vanessa, and I teach this fall called Designing Your Leads. So we weave opportunities to socialize, network, self-reflect. All of that is woven into the curriculum. And this class is all about getting to know yourself, developing your college vision in a team environment. So with that, I know I already covered Pathway to Leeds, but Heather, who is a huge addition to the content that's occurring on Pathway to Leeds, will dive in a little bit into more detail for you all right now. So I'll hand it over to you, Heather.
Great, thanks so much. And I'm seeing some of the questions about classes and GPA and admission requirements. We're absolutely going to cover that. So on that note, though, one of the main purposes of our program is to help your students be successful. So to do that, we have a lot of resources for them to take advantage of. The first is Pathway to Leeds. And I'm seeing that the question about parent access. Unfortunately, it is restricted to students with a CU email. So your students do have to kind of own that one. And of course, if you have access to that, you would have access to all of their class information and things like that. So we'll talk a little bit about student privacy here a little later in more detail, but unfortunately not. Of course, we can answer, questions about that via the pre-business email. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Anyway, resources for success. Pathway to Leeds, we've harped on that a lot, so I'll be brief there. But we also have a variety of other things to help your students be successful. We have tutoring. There are many different tutoring options for incoming freshmen at CU. We have a pre-business tutor that works specifically in Williams Village North. She's amazing. She aced all of her pre-business required classes. So both math classes they'll take one each semester, both econ courses they'll take one each semester, and World of Business, which they take in the spring. So she can help tutor with all of those. And there's also ASAP tutoring, which is a tutoring program that's offered for all students staying in residential academic halls. So lots of options, lots of resources for any class students are struggling with. Know that there's lots of help and lots of students take advantage of this. It's really encouraged for all students to consider, and the sooner they get involved, the better. There's also professor office hours. These are absolutely designed to help your students be successful. There are some classes that have even kind of like special or bonus hours. Our math class, specifically math analysis and business, is great about this. Office hours are one of the single best tools to be successful in that class because they allow students to go to any professor's office hours that teach the class, and there's many that do. So it's a great way to get different perspectives, learn from different instructors. But broadly speaking, this is a great way for students just to get to know their professors better and get any questions that they have answered. Of course, advising. Our office is here to help. We'll walk your students. Stephen mentioned this briefly. I know he's going to talk about this a little bit more, but we'll do a lot of advising in that first year seminar, Design Your Leads class this coming fall. We also do advising in the spring. We kind of guide students through choosing their own classes and making sure they're on track. We also have peer advisors. I mentioned them briefly as well. These are, junior, senior students who have made it through the pre-business program or transferred into Leeds that are excellent at answering, advising questions, and also just talking about the student experience and helping students find resources across campus. One of the best things about the business program, in my opinion, is our mentoring programs. We have mentoring opportunities for students for all 4 years that go from the peer-to-peer mentoring program in their freshman year, where they're matched with a junior or senior, likely someone, again, who's been through pre-business, who's done this process, who can kind of help guide them, to professional mentors and executive mentorship programs. So there's a lot of options for students as they progress through CU, but I highly encourage them to take advantage of P2P or peer-to-peer mentoring in that first year. And then, of course, all these main campus opportunities that every incoming CU student has, from ASAP, which is our tutoring program that I mentioned briefly before, as well as counseling. There's so many options for students on campus for anything that they may need, including disability services as well. It's a great resource for students. We're always here to help point your kids in the right direction whenever they need some guidance. So don't be afraid to send them our way. All right, so let's talk a little bit about classes and break down what you all need or your students will need in order to graduate. So this is a big picture view. The gold side of this little graphic is all of the business classes that your students will take. So they've got this business core. Every graduate from the Leeds School of Business gets a degree in business administration with an emphasis in finance, marketing, accounting, a variety of management topics. So you can kind of see how that's broken down here. The business core is really that business administration piece that's largely taken in their first 2 years. And then area of emphasis and business electives are taken junior and senior year. Mostly, there's a few exceptions to that. One of which is FGX, which I know Vanessa will touch on later. And then on the silver side, these are all the classes that are not business specific. So as you can see, this is a very significant portion of your student's degree. So when we talk about them building their schedules, there's always going to be business classes that they need on their schedule, especially this first year, required courses for admission. And then on top of that, they'll add gen ed classes or other electives. I know some of you have AP, IB, transfer credit, things like that. Some of them meet these non-business or gen ed classes, but largely speaking, these are the electives that they're kind of sprinkling in throughout their 4 years here. All right, so those pre-business requirements, we talk about this a lot, especially in the first semester, to make sure your students have a really good grasp on this. Pre-business is a competitive program, and admitting into Leeds is definitely a rigorous process. We expect students to get a B- or better in 4 classes. So microeconomics, which is taken in the fall typically, and macroeconomics, typically taken in the spring. And then these 2 math classes. Some of your students have one this fall, the other they'll take in the spring. Either order you take them in is perfectly fine. And then we expect cumulative GPA of a 3.0. So this includes every class they take at CU, both those required courses and their electives. So if you're really familiar with how a GPA, the numbers that go into a GPA, if a student got B- in every class, they'd be at a 2.7. So that B- requirement actually gives them a little bit of leniency in those courses with the expectation that then they would do better in their electives potentially. Or of course, if they do well in everything, that's great too. But they need to be meeting these by the end of their first year in order to admit. All right, so freshman courses. So we've got microeconomics on there in the fall. Like I said, it's a prerequisite for macroeconomics. That's why they're listed in that order. All students will have a math class in the fall, whether it's statistics or math analysis in business. It's writing 1150 is listed on here. I just saw one of the questions is a writing class required for pre-business students. It's actually a graduation requirement for all majors across CU. So this is not business specific, but is absolutely a graduation requirement. Some of you may have AP credit for that. That's a pretty common one. Then we've got the first year seminar in business, and potentially one elective on top of that. And then in the spring, they'll start on some of those business core classes. World of Business will be offered through our program in the dorm. The other math class, whatever they did not take in the fall, macroeconomics. And then we've got some options, gen ed courses or electives, as well as this FGX course or first year global experience that Vanessa's again going to talk about a little bit later. It's a really cool opportunity for students, but is totally optional. And that would be a business elective. You can see on this slide that the average is 15 credit hours. It's perfectly fine if your student is at 12 credit hours or up to 16. They'll need an average of 15 credit hours per semester to graduate on time, but it's very easy for them to make up a class later on. And we do encourage a lighter first semester as much as possible, just because it is rigorous. The program is competitive, as I mentioned.
Heather, can you answer, how do students provide their AP scores for credit?
Oh, great question. Thanks for catching that for me. College Board, if you go onto their website, you can have those scores sent straight to CU. There is also on Pathway an outline of how those credits will transfer based on your scores. So in the meantime, if you're curious how things will transfer, you can absolutely refer to that. But yes, you go straight to College Board and have them sent here. And how many science credits you need is 6 credit hours total to graduate. All right, so the application timeline, we wanted to share this with you all as parents so that you're prepared as your students go through this, so you're not wondering when they admit in the fall, because they actually admit in the spring. So they'll receive the application link in this coming spring semester. They can fill it out at any time between when they receive it. We usually send it out when we do group advising, which is usually in March. And then they can fill it out at any point between then and the last day of classes. The admissions process happens after the spring semester because we need to see students' official grades for both semesters in order to consider them for admission. So in the meantime, we have students, while they're kind of in this waiting period, register for gen ed classes, a full schedule in the spring. That way they've got backup courses and electives. When they switch into those business classes, there will be seats for them in June when we send out those official admission letters. But we want them to have lots of electives in the meantime, so they have a lot of options to fit in with those business classes once they officially admit. So it is a really important step in their process, and we'll walk them through that for sure. And then once they admit, they're given a business advisor who's a specialist in whatever area they're most interested in. They're not required to officially commit to an area, but it's a great way to get them to start to explore. And then they, like I said, will add those business classes over the summer. All right, so these next few slides cover a couple of questions that I get all the time working with students and parents. And I wanted to bring them up with you so that you can help guide your students, because these are things that often they may say to you. So one thing that you may hear from students is, I have no idea how well I'm doing in a class. One of the biggest changes from high school to college is the way that grades are communicated, right? So in recent years, it's become very common for students to get grade updates even as frequently as daily, and they're in a software that parents can access and see, and students can access and see. It's very transparent. College is a little bit less straightforward. Every professor has autonomy over their own course. They choose how they want it to be graded, and they post grades on their own timeline. So it's a little bit less straightforward. Students really need to reach out to their professor directly if they have questions about their grades. We don't see in progress grades at all. We only see final grades. So they really need to take the initiative during the semester to reach out to those professors and review their syllabi to see exactly what goes into that grade and how the class is built. All right, this one I get a lot in the first semester. I don't go to class because it's not required. This is something that maybe is a little bit of a holdover from higher ed many years ago. Often attendance was not a part of student's grade many, many years ago. Now it is. So if a student has a class time listed on their schedule, like their econ recitation, for example, it is required that they attend, and they're probably taking attendance. Econ's a great example because they've got this online lecture and this in-person recitation. And I've had students in the past think that the recitation was an optional part of the class, and it's 20% of their grade. The attendance of that is 20% of their grade. So it's a very big deal. So please, please, please encourage them to go. It's one of the best things that they can do to be successful here at CU. And it can make a very, very significant difference in their GPA at the end of the term. All right, so especially with COVID and the opportunity for students to take classes elsewhere, this is something that has come up a lot. History is the same everywhere. I'll take it at a community college this summer, right? There are these gen ed requirements or elective requirements for students to graduate. You can potentially take classes elsewhere. I just want to make sure that you talk to an advisor, or that your student talks to an advisor before you do so. Sometimes transfer credit comes through in unusual ways, and we never want students to take classes elsewhere unless we're certain that their classes will come through as they expect them to. We, never want you spending money that you don't need to at other schools. So, or here either, right? We want to make sure we're being as efficient as possible with your student's degree. All right, so I was pre-registered for the fall term, so I don't need to worry about my class schedule. We love to help incoming freshmen build their schedules for the fall. We pre-registered all of our students for, almost everyone got 4 classes: writing, math, econ, and that Design Your Leeds class. Some of you had transfer, some of your students had transfer credit. So they may have dropped one of those classes or something like that. But largely speaking, they had most of their schedule built, maybe added a single course. This is not true in future semesters. We will absolutely guide them through how to add classes for the spring semester in that Design Your Leeds class, but we are a little bit different than a high school guidance counselor. An academic advisor in college is really here to connect students with resources and talk to them about all the different opportunities and majors, areas of emphasis that exist within Leeds, provide guidance depending on grades, things like that. But we want students to take ownership of their education and make sure that they're on track for admission, and we'll teach them how to do that. So they will need to register for classes for the spring. We'll guide them through it, but they do add everything on their own. So maybe worth just checking in with them about that around Thanksgiving to make sure that they've gotten registered for the spring semester. It's an assignment in class too, but it's a good thing to have a second voice at the table. All right, I'm so busy. Will you just call my advisor for me? This is really important. So over the summer, FERPA does not apply to incoming students, and FERPA is a federal law that protects student privacy, which means that I can talk to parents as much as I want to and tell you everything you may need to know about your student. Once we hit the first day of classes, FERPA law comes into place, and I'm not able to do that in the same capacity. Your student can absolutely sign a form, it's a FERPA release form, that allows you access to their student information. However, if they don't sign that or haven't gotten around to it, I'm not able to share student information with parents. So I have had parents email me and ask information about students, and unfortunately had to send them the email that says, federal law restricts me from speaking specifically about your child. Here's some general information. So just be mindful of that. If it's important to you and your student to have that filled out, please encourage them to do so. But just know that that is something that we're bound by once we hit the first semester. Awesome. All right, and I can't get in to see my advisor. Some of you have seen how this works over busy times. We really lean on drop-ins. We also encourage students to be proactive, so they can book appointments long in advance. We'll be releasing more appointments here very shortly for September, but drop-ins are really a great resource for them, and we'll talk about those drop-in opportunities here in the fall shortly. Okay, upcoming important deadlines. I'm going to go through these very quickly. These are all on Pathway for your student. Their orientation is due next Wednesday, just the online component. The last day for them to add a class is September 2nd. If they're on a wait list, this is the last chance for them to roll off that. Last day to drop is September 9th, so a little later. Note that if they drop a class after September 2nd, they're not going to be able to add another one in its place. And the last day to withdraw with a W is October 30th, and I can always talk to them about what that process looks like. It's a great practice for them to be checking their email. Awesome. All right, this is my last little bit here. There are many ways to meet with us. We do have our offices in Williams Village North. I am pregnant, so I will actually be working remotely this fall. But we have lots of opportunities for your students to chat with me and with our peer advisors. We have all of our peer advisors working in person, so we will absolutely have an advising presence in person this fall, as well as, of course, Vanessa and Stephen there. But we'll be hosting appointments and drop-ins both with myself and with our peer advisors all semester long. We do drop-ins every Monday 1 to 3. I'll release some extra times for next week for move-in, just in case there's any last-minute things that your students need. And then, of course, appointments once we get through the first couple of weeks of classes. Those first few weeks, we really focus on drop-ins just so we can help as many students as possible. And thank you. Perfect. I think that's all for me, unless there's any questions you wanted me to cover, Vanessa.
I don't think so. I think we got them. And there's one question about historically, what percentage of the pre-business students are admitted into Leeds? And so historically, it's about 65% after 2 semesters. And then it does increase a little bit if they go through an additional summer. And then we go up to about 75% after 3 semesters. So even if they need to extend at CU into a 3rd semester to get into Leeds, they can graduate in 4 years. And then the other students who don't get in, it's not necessarily because they didn't meet the requirements. It's often more likely that they are choosing another major and have decided early on even that they are going on a different path. And we're all about that. So we're here to support them on their journey. Yes, we are Leeds staff members, and we are assuming that's your student's goal because they're coming into pre-business. But if we find that they are more interested in another area, we are here to help support them and get them on that path. So that definitely happens throughout the semesters and at the end of terms. So I always say, if your student wants to get into Leeds, they will get into Leeds. And it's all about the time and dedication that they put into their academics and just making sure that they're focusing on getting those requirements done. So we're here to help them. There's 3 of us to 350 students. It's a pretty amazing staff to student ratio. So we want them to reach out to us as they need help. All right. And then someone mentioned, if you want to stop by other times outside of coffee hour, please feel free to do that. But we just might be kind of running around doing different things. So we hope we don't miss you. But Stephen and I will be here, and as well as our peer advisors in the East Wing of Williams Village North. So that's 184 through 188. And it's not hard to find us. The first floor is small. So if you wander around enough, you will come across us. Okay, so what is BADM 1250? So there is a 1.5 credit hour business elective course on your student's schedule for the fall semester. This class is designed for Leeds direct admit freshmen. So all Leeds students take this class and all pre-business students take this class. They don't absolutely have to take the class, but it is highly recommended. And we pre-enroll them with the intention that they will take the class. It's also a cool opportunity to get a business elective done in their first year. So we do strongly encourage that they take the class. We've been teaching this course for over 5 years now, and it continues to evolve based on current professional trends as well as student demand. So students do give us a lot of feedback throughout the academic year, and we use that to iterate in the class and change and modify as we go. This fall, we're prototyping this course as a hybrid remote and online class. And the purpose of this is to expose your students to all kinds of different modalities with classes. We piloted this in the spring, and it was very successful. Students really connected with the material and provided great feedback for us to continue to improve this class. This class is also designed to be a community accelerator. So they will meet the majority of their pre-business classmates in their sections. So I just hear some people coming off mute, so if you can just be sure that you are muted, I will try to do that now for you too. Okay, so this class is designed to, it's design your leads, right? So it's designed to help students navigate Leeds, but also CU Boulder. It's an opportunity to build relationships and for structured self-discovery. So we do some soft skill building and we go through the process of design thinking that originated at Stanford. So this course is designed to help them succeed not only in their first year, but throughout college. It's a great foundational class. So what is design thinking? I'm just going to go through this like at a very, very high level. We spend a whole class period just talking about what design thinking is. So that's like an hour and 15 minutes, right? So we actually partnered with Stanford's design school, the D school. I've been there over the summer for their trainings. It's just such a really great concept and a cool thing that we integrate into a lot of our curriculum. And it's throughout CU Boulder, so it's not just Leeds specific. We believe these principles are a way for students to approach life design and help them wayfind through the rest of their lives. So a little bit about design thinking. You may be familiar with it. It was made famous by David Kelly, the founder of the D School, and product design from IDEO. So the design school is mostly product design at Stanford in the engineering department. So I'm going to start with like kind of the empathize step, and that is really kind of like one of our grounding steps. And this process starts with the need, which literally means the ability to share the feelings and perspectives of another person. In the case of product design, you are empathizing with the user, right? And you're trying to understand what they may need. But in the case of life design, which we're focused on, the user is you, it's your student. And we will be doing a lot of like self-assessments and things like that to give students the ability to empathize where they are and where they might want to be. So we're kind of going through all of these phases of design thinking you see on the screen where they're kind of accepting where they are, we're moving into empathize, and then we start defining and ideating. But the most important kind of junctures, we think, are these like prototype and testing phases. So once they've kind of narrowed down some possible ideas, and so that looks like, I don't know what I want to study, right? And we start exposing them and ideating these things, right? So now we're starting to prototype. So they're narrowing down some possible ideas, and it's time to kind of pick one and build a prototype. Life design prototypes are designed to ask a question and get some data about something you're interested in. Like, will I like management consulting or product management better? Prototypes help students experience these alternatives without really committing to join a company, right? So this is freshman year. It's the time to really start thinking about these things and prototyping their journey. We want to help them make a better decision about what they want to pursue. So life design prototype, can be, the testing phase can be like an internship. So they've kind of defined like, I'm really interested in this and I want to test it out. So we start looking at internships, which often they're doing anywhere from like summer of freshman year, which is kind of early, throughout like, the summer before their senior year. Some do it in their senior year as well. So they usually have more than one internship too. So they're not limited to that. The more the better, really, to prototype and test these experiences. Maybe it looks like interviewing 5 to 6 people in the field that they're interested in. So we actually do have several interviews built into the curriculum that they'll be completing. And so we just do a lot of testing in this class. So, we don't really apply designing your life in this sequential order. We're moving in and out of these phases all semester. So it's just a really great class based in design thinking. We want our students to understand this design thinking process as a framework. And we'll be relying on the many skills and mindsets of designers. So just some, like I said, really like big overview of design thinking and kind of why we think it's important, and we weave it throughout the curriculum. So this is a 14-week class. We end a little early so they can focus on finals. It is not meant to be rigorous. It really is meant to be engaging, exciting, help them meet their peers, help them really get to know us better. And provide them some really good tools to wayfind throughout college. So I'm going to talk a little bit about archetypes, and we're going to do some polling here. And I see a quick question about study abroad. I'm going to talk all about global experiences after this section. So we're going to try to move a little quickly because I know we are getting tight on time. But these 3 college archetypes are kind of ways we think about approaching college. And I'm going to put up some polls here because we do this with your students too. And we love to compare what the parents say to what our students say. So what are college archetypes? We're kind of thinking about what we most identify with here when we're approaching college. And so I want you to kind of think back and think about why you would want to go to school. Why did you go to school? How would you approach college now? And students, really have a hard time picking just one, and that's okay. We want to reinforce the idea that students can embody more than one archetype and ask them to move to the one that they feel most strongly about. All right, so what is life of the mind? So you're interested in growing your intellect. You're coming to college to be in it for knowledge's sake, right? You want to read everything, you want to take all the classes, and you really came to college to join the academy. Or maybe you're thinking more around career readiness. You came to college to launch your career. You're interested in developing skills and amassing experiences that will position you for joining the workforce. Or maybe you're just here to become you. You came to college to explore, to figure out who you are, what you like, and what matters to you. Traveling abroad, joining a fraternity, party on the hill, finding different communities, and human expression. All right, so I'm going to throw up a poll here, okay? And I want you to answer, for you personally, what do you identify with the most? So are you life of the mind, knowledge for knowledge's sake, career readiness? You are definitely just going to college to do your 4 years, graduate early and get the job. Or you're here to explore, become you, and really just soak in everything on this more of the social side of what college has to offer. So there's a poll up here. Let's try to get our 50 responses. There's 50 participants. All right, awesome. Okay, so a lot of you, it's kind of like a pretty mixed, but you're heavy on the career readiness side, right? So interesting to see that. All right, so great. We save this information and we do share it with your students. So cool to get a perspective there. All right, so one more poll here. There's gonna be 2 more, sorry. So where do you think your students should be? Why are you sending your students to college? What would you like them to focus on? So another poll up there. Where do you think your students should be? Life of the mind, career readiness, becoming you. And your students are all over the place too. We usually do this in a classroom and we have like pictures up on the walls and they're running to different sides of the room. So it's fun to see them engage and do that. All right, great. So pretty even split here too. And last one, where do you think Leeds thinks they should be? So you're talking to our Dean Sharon Matusik. Why do you think she wants your student to come here to see you? What do you think she wants to get out of it at the end of 4 years? All right, I'm going to end the poll. So it's great to get some feedback from you all and to see where your head's at for why your students are coming to school. So the important takeaway here is that there are many different ways of going about college. There is no one right way. And so that is, one of the main takeaways from this activity when we talk to your students. They don't have to be focused on one way and one outcome. It's important that we expose them to all different areas of what C Boulder, Leeds, and like our global partners have to offer. All right, so let's jump into global programs. So this is kind of the last portion of our presentation here. And we're really excited because our global programs are back on and it's something that students will be exposed to again. And I'll talk a little bit about how last year went and didn't go and what we're excited about this year. So why do we believe in global education? At Leeds, we have a goal that 100% of our undergraduate students will have some type of global competency completed by graduation. So the goal is really for every graduate to have a comprehensive opportunity to explore the international business environment, to enrich international awareness, understanding, and competence, to increase skills that aid job placements, and to create global citizens for the betterment of our world. So it may not be that your student goes on a global experience. Maybe that's not a good fit for them. There are many other ways they can achieve this, including international business classes, participating in our global certificate. So they'll be exposed to this, throughout their 4 years. And so here are some opportunities that they get over the course of study here. And I'm going to focus on the first year global experience because it really is their first opportunity to check the box on this global competency. So what is FGX? The first year global experience is a 2-credit hour business elective taught during the spring semester, and it includes a week-long global experience at the end of term in May. Some of the classes do go in spring break. We traditionally do that for our Switzerland class, but this year we're going to go in May for just a lot of different reasons. We can go a little bit longer. Also with just COVID, we want to be sure that we can travel, and it's usually a better time. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about our specific section, but all the application deadlines and instructions will be provided to students soon. So we'll be communicating that to them. Our FGX office will be communicating that to them. So more information in the next couple of weeks will be sent out. The program costs do vary by FGX course, but they're all pretty much within this range of costs. So the tuition is billed just like a regular tuition for 2 credit hours. And then this is the program class, and you pay a deposit, and then the balance is due in the spring before we travel. There are scholarships. So their partial scholarships may be awarded based on financial need. Students can use federal and state financial aid to cover some of the program costs. And the only thing that really doesn't apply here are the Buffs Abroad scholarships. They're not meant for FGX programs. So what's included in that program fee? Pretty much everything. Their flights, their hotel accommodations, which are really nice 4-star, and breakfast, all of our ground transportation. Typically it's Heather and I traveling with them. We do business and cultural visits every day. And we do have at least 2 dinners that are covered. It also includes, I think, up to $1 million international health insurance coverage. So majority of things are covered in that program cost. What's not included, lunches and dinners, but we do really cover quite a few dinners. It just kind of ends up that way with the different kinds of programming we do. So they really just have to get their lunches. And sometimes the businesses provide that as well. So we do give them a budget, and we provide that when we get into the class based on, what the current exchange rate is and that kind of thing. But like I said, the majority of their program is covered by those program fees. So this is really purposeful travel. If your student's looking for a vacation, this is really not the trip for them. We're pretty, strict on what the day looks like and what we're doing. They do have to participate 100% in what we're doing throughout the week. And then of course, there's some free time built in, but they're busy, they're tired. So we do really keep them on the go and on the move. This is a professional opportunity for them to do. So we really stress that in the class. We want them to take it seriously. There are expectations on their dress code and just what we're doing while we're in country. So it's important that students are aware of that. If they want to do a spring break somewhere, they should do that, but not on FGX. So our pre-business locations are Switzerland, and more opportunities will be open. So in the past, it's been Dublin and the Czech Republic. And so I'm not sure what we'll do this year, but we know for sure we will do Zurich, and there are 30 available seats in our program for Zurich. We'll travel in May once classes are over. And our first priority for this section are the pre-business students, but often we do have business students join us as well. Heather and I teach this class. So we teach a full semester long class once a week that they're coming to, and then we go on the trip. So they're learning all about international business curriculum. It's an international business class. They're learning about Switzerland specifically as well. We talk about the EU and other, just global business curriculum is all like woven throughout the class. But then we do focus on, part of the class, what is it about Switzerland specifically? And there are some textbooks involved. So we are really passionate about this class. We love it. It's such an amazing opportunity for students. Heather and I both have led many of these trips. Heather's been to Italy. We've done Switzerland together, and I've gone to the UK and Ireland. So we love doing this with students. It's such a cool opportunity, and we hope that your students are interested in participating. They'll go through an application process, and they can always decide not to do it by the end of the semester. But we, give lots of opportunity and expose them to like what we're going to be doing. So we want to set them up for success there. Okay, so here we've got someone drawing on the screen here, so sorry about that. But here's the link for FGX, but we'll send more information out. This link doesn't have all of the like very current up-to-date information. We are still making sure with our providers, we can achieve what we need and make it a successful program for the end of term next year. But your students will be hearing more about it, so that means you'll be hearing more about it, I'm sure. So just keep that in mind over the next few weeks as we start exposing them to what this class will look like if they're really interested. And then, like I said, we'll be emailing their CU Boulder email and talking about this in our Design Your Leads class. All right, so I haven't been looking at the chat, but I think Heather's been covering it. Heather, are there any questions I haven't covered? Okay, so if you have any other questions, please throw them in the chat, but that really does conclude our presentation. We hope you got some good information out of it. We hope to see you all next week. We do have this recorded, so if you want to watch it again, of course you can. And if anyone didn't come, then we'll be sure to send that their way. And hopefully we can meet you next week and have a smooth move in. And we're just so excited. So go Buffs. And we're really looking forward to this incoming class and getting back to normal here at CU. Thanks, everybody.